Hey there, and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a really fun tagged video idea. This is a video idea of my own. I haven't seen this anywhere, so if it exists, it's purely by coincidence. But I don't know why this just came to me. I was just thinking of different ideas that hadn't been done in between all my many fragrance videos that I'm filming for you guys. For this month and the next, and this one just came to me when I was thinking of different ways to kind of shop your stash in between the hauls, which I'm trying to reduce, but we'll see. So this is kind of a fragrance video idea where you kind of sent the letters in your name and you pick fragrances from your collection that start with each letter of your first name. So if you have a super long name, you'll have a longer video. If you have a shorter name, then you'll have a shorter video. But it's just a fun way to talk about fragrances in your collection. And if you have a larger collection like myself that goes into the hundreds, I can add like a little caveat that you can pull out fragrances. If you have more than one per letter, pull out ones that you don't usually talk to or talk about or kind of point to, so that it helps you kind of shop your stash and use up fragrances that you're not usually drawn to or that you've forgotten. So I'm gonna get into it and get into the letters of my name, Mojan, and I tag pretty much everyone who does this video. If you want to leave it in the comments below, if you don't make videos, I would love to check out your answers. And if you make videos, then definitely feel free to do this tag, give me a shout out, and I'd love to check out your versions. I will tag some specific people that I think would be amazing if they did it, because I watch their channels, but we're just gonna get right into it. So if you haven't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe, and let's start with the first letter of my name, which is M. So again, I had a lot to pick from for M, and I actually picked from a line of fragrances that I talk about often, but this is one within the range that I think I talk about the least, really. And that is Magnolia Rosé, or Rosé. I never know how to pronounce that. And that is from the Maison Lancôme range. And I really like it. I don't think I have an explanation for why I'm least drawn to this. The only thing I will say is I have, I think, 5 or 6 of the Maison Lancômes to date, and this is by and large the most light of all of them and the worst performer of all of them. Now that goes, I mean, I have fragrances that perform way worse than this, but Maison Lancôme fragrances usually are quite strong, and some are even like quite beast mode, to be quite honest, and this is not that. It's a light to medium performance, kind of doesn't really project a whole lot, and that's okay. I mean, I think it's still a really nice fragrance. I'm going to remind myself now a little bit of it because it has been a while, but it is a really nice one. I feel like for some reason, even though I know it's not on the notes, it gives me like a suede floral vibe. There is something about it that's almost not leathery, but there's like an earthy suede vibe to it, which I actually do enjoy, and I feel like it gives it a particular interesting take. And so, yeah, I hope I'll be drawn to this more so this year. This kind of gives me early fall or autumn kind of vibes, which is not at all the current season we're in, but I also think it's fairly seasonless, is a word I'm making up, where I don't feel like it wouldn't work in any particular season. I think because of that slight earthy suede vibe that I'm getting from it, it's not just like this airy fruity floral where you might think only suits warmer weather, or super jammy dark heady floral which you think would only suit colder weather. This kind of toes that line really beautifully, actually. So that is Magnolia Rosé, or Rosé, from Maison Lancôme. And then we get to O. And pretty much all my O fragrances, not all of them, but pretty much all my O fragrances that I thought of or that I could find were oud fragrances, and then there were a couple that weren't, and I'm like, I gotta go with an oud. I love an oud, why not? And so I did, and choosing between them was difficult. There are definitely others that I talk about less, but I was just drawn to this one, and that is OUD Malaki, or again, Malaki. I'm picking out the fragrances, the few fragrances that I have trouble with pronouncing. So this one is by Chopard, and it's a huge favorite of mine. This is not one that I'm not drawn to, so it's kind of the exception to the rule of these 6 that I'm going to talk about, but I really like this, and I did wear it a whole lot, even though you can't really tell, but I swear there is, maybe you can tell a little bit more. There is a dent in it, I promise you. It was completely to the top where you couldn't even see anything because there's that like gold cover right there, but whatever. This is a very boozy, it's like a boozy oud. It's very unisex, male leaning, but I love it. And it is one of those ouds that just does impeccably in colder weather. I really, really liked this one, and I love that oozy feel to it, or boozy, not oozy, boozy feel to it. I really, really liked it. This was one of the ones that many sales ago now on Fragrance Buy, it was like $35 or something really low. It was like a door crasher, so a bunch of people were getting it or thinking about getting it, and I was one of those people, and it worked out for the best. I had very low expectations because I didn't really think anything of it, or I hadn't heard anything about it beforehand, but it worked out so well afterwards. So that is my pick for OUD Malaki by Chopard. All right, so now we get to J. This was the hardest letter out of all of them. I think I only had this one to talk about. I don't even know if there were any more. I'm pretty sure this was the only one. So I'm glad I found this because it was the letter that I was most worried about, J. And I was like, oh, if I don't have this, I don't want to get a fragrance just to make this work. And how does that happen with a fragrance collection of like 400 plus fragrances? Like, how can I not have one J? And I didn't want to cheat, so I'm so happy that I remembered this fragrance, and that is Jewel by Alfred Sung. It's been so long, I completely forgot. And this is a fragrance I've had for a very long time. I actually thought I lost it because I couldn't find it in my empties, and I thought I'd finished it, but then I didn't, I guess. So anyways, I couldn't even figure out, I'm like, did I just see it? Did I not? Did I ever own it? So I bought it because I thought maybe I should have it, and that I lost it because I don't throw out any of my fragrances ever. So it was this whole whirlwind. Lo and behold, I do have it in my collection, and I almost never wear it. It does remind me of like preteen times, because I guess if I didn't have it then, because this bottle is not that old, my mom must have had it, or a friend or something, because I remember wearing this when I was very, very young, like 10 to 13. But this isn't that bottle. So it does remind me of that time in my life, and I guess I've just kind of I'm just over it, and I've outgrown it. It's quite a fruity fragrance. There's some like blackcurrant and some floral in there. I don't really get any kind of great performance, to be quite honest. It's very light. It's not an aquatic fragrance, but it just smells like a clean, generic fruity floral that reminds me of my preteen years, which explains why I never wear it. And when I have it in my collection, it is a hard one to kind of stand up, because it does stand up fine, but you do have to kind of be careful that the other fragrances around it are placed in a certain way that it could topple over. So really nothing about this works for me. I would not recommend it unless you are someone who gets headaches from fragrances and you're not really a fragrance person and you're like dabbling into fragrance, or you want something for work, or you're around people that don't really like fragrance, but you just don't want to smell like nothing and you want to wear something, this is a great one for that. It is light, it is clean. There is really no way anyone is going to get a headache or feel offended in any way by this fragrance. So if you're in close quarters and you or the people around you aren't into fragrance, Jewel by Alfred Sung is a perfect pick for you. Then we get to A. I had all the choice in the world for A, but like I said, I wanted to pick a fragrance that I don't usually talk about. So again, this is a range that I talk about often, but this is one of the lesser talked ones. And that is the Ange ou Démon line from Givenchy that I'm in love with. And this is the Le Parfum one. So this one's quite a bit more floral than the others. It's very floral heavy, and it's like a citrusy floral. It's got a little bit of patchouli in there, but it's not like the other one that's very chypre, which messes me up. I do actually like this one. There's just better ones in the Ange ou Démon collection for my taste. But if you are looking for a mature floral that isn't heady, this is your jam. Givenchy really did incredible things with this Ange ou Démon range, and everything I've tried from them, even fragrances like the chypre one that I mentioned or this that aren't my favorite that I reach for every day, I can super appreciate as being great fragrances if you're gonna be into them. If you're into a citrusy floral, if you like florals that aren't powdery, this is not powdery, it's not jammy, it's not overly sweet, it's not heady, but it definitely has like a strong base to it, then this is actually a really, really nice one. And I love the Ange ou Démon bottles. And this one is a bit shorter. It's more similar to the L'Ange Noir bottle compared to the ones that are longer. And yeah, every time I do smell it, I do think to myself that I should wear it more often. It's very sophisticated smelling. It smells like something a manager or a director or someone in a higher position of power in like the corporate world would smell like. So I really do like it. I'm just more drawn to some others, but that is Ange ou Démon Le Parfum by Givenchy. And then we get to the two N's. So I was, again, a little spoiled for choice for N, but I wanted to pick two that I don't talk about very often, so you guys would hear about some more fragrances. And if you've only just recently joined and only recently subscribed, hopefully, then you probably haven't heard me talk about these at all. So the first one's Noble Potion, and this is a bottle I adore. I may not love the fragrance as much, we'll get to it, but the bottle is stunning to me. It's very aesthetically pleasing to me. And the Merchant of Venice in general, their bottles really captured my attention just online because I'd never seen them in person from many, many years ago. I'd seen videos of certain people finding them in the States at like Marshall's and TJ Maxx for very, very reduced. And I'd always been so drawn to it that I always knew I wanted a Merchant of Venice fragrance, but I couldn't smell them. So I ended up blind buying this one, and this was one of the rarer occasions where a blind buy doesn't go to plan, but the bottle, oh my God, it's stunning. So what I will say, I do like the fragrance. I just don't love it and what I was expecting it to smell like. And I think scent-wise, it's not easy to guess what it's gonna smell like based on the notes. It certainly wasn't easy for me. This smells very similar to the Infusion d'Iris, the Iris Infusion fragrance from Prada, but the carnation kind of flanker. If you've ever smelled that one, I do prefer that to this, but it has a spiciness to it, which this certainly has. And this is a very warm, spicy, herbal floral or like spicy floral. And I think because it also had violet and rose in the notes, I was expecting it to be a different type of floral than what it ended up being. But in fact, it really does smell very similar to what the bottle colors look like. And on my skin, whenever something has too many spices or is too spice forward, that just really amplifies on my skin. Whatever my body chemistry is, I'm not sure, but if something, I mentioned before, if it's very cinnamon heavy, it'll just amplify on my skin. Even if there's like a drop of cinnamon on my skin, it'll be so super cinnamon heavy. And sometimes that works for me and I love it, but other times it's so heavy that it drowns out anything else that could possibly ever be in the fragrance. And I have to be in the mood for when I'm into it. And that's the case with this. That's a personal thing. I think a lot of people really like warm, spicy fragrances. And I know they're super popular on YouTube as well, especially for kind of colder seasons. Fall time fragrance people, if you guys are obsessed with fall, it's my least favorite season, but for a lot of people, it's your favorite season. This is a great fall fragrance. And so that's why there's just very few days out of the year where I'm gonna be drawn to it, but it's not a bad one at all. It's just to my taste, I'm gonna be drawn to it so few days out of the year. And then finally, we have the last N, and that I picked is Nirvana Rose. I have not worn this fragrance since I hauled it, tried it out to do a second impressions, and then I have not touched it since. So I really wanted to pull it out just to kind of remind myself what it's all about. I have a number of the Nirvanas. I have white, rose, French gray, tobacco, and I have the black and bourbon also as hair shampoo, so I know what they smell like. And this one is one of my lesser used ones. This is quite like a rose vetiver type fragrance, and the vetiver I like in it because it reminds me of Terre d'Hermès Eau de Toilette by Hermès, the men's cologne, and that's why this one's quite unisex. I don't know why I haven't been more drawn to it. I guess there's a lot of other fragrances that have come in the mix, but if you're someone who is like Terre d'Hermès either on yourself or you've liked it on a man that you've smelled it on and you wanted kind of like a female take on that, this is your jam because it could easily have been kind of Terre d'Hermès for her. Yeah, it's kind of like the slightly more feminine version of that, and it's got like a deep earthy rose in it that is not particularly feminine or girly. It just smells like a really earthy, dark oxblood red rose with some pretty strong vetiver. So that is Nirvana Rose, and that is scenting my name. I hope you guys enjoyed this fun video. I hope you found it enjoyable. As I mentioned, if you make videos, I would love to see your versions of this, and if you don't, I'd love to see your choices in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!